Introduction. What if I told you that most of your thoughts aren't truly your own? What if I told you that every decision you make, every belief you hold, and every reaction you have has been carefully shaped by forces you may not even see? It may sound like a conspiracy, but it's not. This is the reality of how the world operates. From the moment you were born, you've been conditioned by schools, media, social norms, and hidden psychological triggers, all designed to keep you in line. The truth is, you might think you're choosing for yourself, but in reality, you're just following along with what you've been taught to believe. Now take a moment to think about that. The world around us is filled with information and influences, some subtle and some direct. It is easy to fall into the trap of thinking we are making informed decisions, but more often than not, we are reacting based on what we've been programmed to believe. And that's where critical thinking comes in. In today's episode, we are going to take back control. We'll explore how you can think sharper, faster, and smarter. You'll learn to question, challenge, and lead, things most people are too afraid to do. What you're about to discover might just change the way you see everything, and once you see it, you can never unsee it. So, if you're ready to stop being manipulated and start thinking for yourself, stay with me, because we are diving deep into how you can instantly boost your critical thinking skills. Section 1. What is critical thinking? Let's start by understanding what critical thinking really is. Most people think they are thinking critically, but in reality, they are often just reacting. Critical thinking is more than simply accepting information or reacting to it. It's about questioning, analyzing, and evaluating ideas and arguments, then making decisions based on a well-rounded understanding. It's about diving deeper into what you see, hear, and read, and not just taking things at face value. At its core, critical thinking is the ability to think clearly and rationally, understanding the logical connection between ideas. It's about thinking in a reasoned way and considering the bigger picture, not just focusing on a single perspective or a narrow view. It involves being open-minded, but at the same time it requires you to be skeptical of claims and assumptions. This is the foundation of good decision-making. Now, why is critical thinking so important in today's world? We live in an age of information overload, where we are constantly bombarded with messages, news, advertisements, and opinions from every direction. With the rise of social media and the accessibility of information online, it's easier than ever to consume content without taking the time to truly understand it. And that's where the danger lies. If we're not careful, we can easily fall into the trap of accepting false information or making decisions based on faulty reasoning. Critical thinking helps you cut through the noise. It allows you to filter out irrelevant information, separate fact from fiction, and identify biases or manipulations. This skill enables you to understand different viewpoints, question assumptions, and recognize logical fallacies. In a world where opinions are often presented as facts, critical thinking is your safeguard against being misled. But let's be clear, critical thinking is not about being negative or dismissive. It's not about rejecting ideas simply because they are new or unfamiliar. It's about being curious, open to new possibilities, and willing to challenge your own beliefs. It's about approaching every situation with a healthy dose of skepticism and a readiness to examine the evidence before forming a judgment. One of the key aspects of critical thinking is the ability to recognize when you are being influenced by external factors. It's about understanding how the media, advertising, and even your own emotions can cloud your judgment. For example, have you ever noticed how certain news stories, headlines, or social media posts can trigger an emotional response in you? Maybe you feel anger, excitement, or fear. But does that emotion influence how you process the information? Critical thinkers are aware of their emotional reactions and take a step back to analyze whether those emotions are based on facts or simply the result of manipulation. Another important aspect of critical thinking is questioning your own assumptions. We all have biases, some of which are unconscious. These biases shape the way we see the world and influence the decisions we make. By thinking critically, you can start to recognize these biases and understand how they may be affecting your judgment. This awareness helps you make more informed, objective decisions, free from the influence of preconceived notions. Let's dive deeper into how critical thinking works in practice. Imagine you're reading an article or watching a news segment. Your first step in thinking critically is to ask yourself, what is the source of this information? Who is presenting it, and what is their agenda? Are they an expert on the topic, or are they just someone with an opinion? This initial step helps you assess the credibility of the information. Next, you need to evaluate the argument being presented. What are the main points being made, and what evidence is being used to support them? Are there any logical fallacies, such as oversimplifications or emotional appeals, that could undermine the argument's validity? Are there any counter-arguments that have not been addressed? These are essential questions to ask yourself as you work through the information. Once you've analyzed the argument, you need to draw conclusions based on the evidence at hand. This is where critical thinking becomes particularly powerful. Instead of simply accepting the first conclusion that comes your way, a critical thinker will weigh all the available evidence, consider multiple perspectives, and arrive at the most reasoned conclusion. However, critical thinking doesn't stop there. After making a conclusion, it's important to revisit it from time to time. Ask yourself, is this still the best conclusion based on the evidence I have? Critical thinking is a dynamic process, one that requires continuous reevaluation and open-mindedness. The best thinkers are not those who cling to their beliefs, but those who are constantly testing their ideas and willing to change their minds when new evidence arises. Now, some people may feel overwhelmed by the idea of critical thinking. They may think it requires an advanced level of intelligence or extensive knowledge in a particular field. But the truth is, anyone can develop critical thinking skills. It's a habit, a mindset that can be cultivated with practice. It's not about being right all the time. It's about being willing to question and analyze everything you hear, see, and experience. Here's a simple exercise to start practicing critical thinking today. The next time you hear a claim, whether in a conversation, a news article, or even an advertisement, pause for a moment and ask yourself, what's the evidence behind this? Is this the full picture, or is something missing? What are the potential biases involved? These questions might seem basic, but they're powerful in helping you break free from automatic reactions and begin thinking more deeply. Critical thinking also involves being aware of your own cognitive biases. We all have them, and they can significantly affect our decision-making. For instance, the confirmation bias leads us to seek out information that supports our pre-existing beliefs and dismiss anything that contradicts them. By recognizing this bias in ourselves, we can start to actively seek out diverse viewpoints and challenge our assumptions. Another common bias is the bandwagon effect, where we are more likely to adopt a belief or opinion simply because others around us are doing the same. Critical thinking helps us resist the urge to follow the crowd and instead encourages us to make decisions based on logic and reason. So, how can you improve your critical thinking skills on a daily basis? Start by committing to a few small changes in your routine. First, make a conscious effort to read more books, articles, and papers that challenge your current thinking. Engage with content that presents opposing viewpoints and take the time to understand the reasoning behind them. Second, practice asking better questions. Whether you're reading, watching, or listening, challenge yourself to ask questions that dig deeper into the subject matter. Ask about the evidence, the assumptions, and the implications. The more you practice asking thoughtful questions, the sharper your critical thinking will become. Finally, take action. Don't just consume information passively. Engage with it, discuss ideas with others, write down your thoughts, and take the time to reflect on what you've learned. Critical thinking is about actively engaging with the world around you, questioning what you hear, and seeking out new knowledge to strengthen your understanding. In the end, critical thinking is not just about being able to analyze and evaluate ideas. It's about being able to live your life with intention and clarity. It allows you to make decisions that are informed, well-reasoned, and aligned with your values. It gives you the power to resist manipulation, recognize the truth, and navigate the complexities of the world with confidence. So, as we continue this journey through the world of critical thinking, remember that this is a skill that you can master. It's not about being perfect, but about being willing to challenge yourself and grow. With each step you take, you'll become more adept at thinking critically, and you'll start to see the world around you in a completely new light. Let's keep building these skills together, because the better you think, the better you live. Section 2, the common pitfalls in thinking. Welcome to Section 2, the common pitfalls in thinking. In the previous sections, we've explored what critical thinking is and how to sharpen your thinking skills. Now let's dive into something equally important, the common pitfalls that can trip up even the most well-meaning thinkers. Understanding these pitfalls is crucial because awareness is the first step toward avoiding them. Critical thinking isn't just about having the right answers, it's also about recognizing when you're falling into cognitive traps that lead you astray. These traps can distort your thinking, cloud your judgment, and ultimately prevent you from making sound decisions. Let's look at some of the most common pitfalls in thinking and how they can undermine your ability to think critically. 1. Confirmation bias. One of the most dangerous cognitive biases is confirmation bias. This occurs when we seek out information that supports what we already believe, while ignoring information that contradicts our views. It's like wearing blinders that limit our vision and prevent us from seeing the full picture. Imagine you're reading a news article about a political issue. If you already support a particular side, your brain will naturally gravitate toward the parts of the article that reinforce your viewpoint, while dismissing or overlooking anything that challenges your beliefs. Confirmation bias doesn't just apply to politics, it can affect every area of life. Whether you're choosing a product, forming an opinion about someone, or making a major life decision, confirmation bias can lead you to selectively gather and interpret information in a way that confirms your existing ideas without critically evaluating the evidence as a whole. To overcome this bias, it's essential to make a conscious effort to expose yourself to differing viewpoints. Actively seek out information that challenges your beliefs. This may be uncomfortable at first, but it will help broaden your understanding and make you a more balanced and critical thinker. 2. Overconfidence bias. We all know someone who is always convinced they are right. They argue their point passionately and believe they know more than others, even when they may not. This is an example of overconfidence bias, where people overestimate their own abilities and knowledge. It's easy to fall into this trap, especially when we've had some success in an area or have a certain level of expertise. However, overconfidence can be a double-edged sword. It can make you dismiss others' input, overlook important details, and become blind to potential flaws in your reasoning. The key to avoiding overconfidence bias is humility. Understand that no one knows everything and we are all constantly learning. Even if you have expertise in a certain field, remember that new information can always challenge existing knowledge. Regularly check your assumptions and remain open to new ideas, even if they contradict your beliefs or what you thought you knew. 3. Emotional reasoning. Emotions play a powerful role in our decision-making process. While it's natural to be influenced by how we feel, relying solely on emotions to guide our decisions can be dangerous. Emotional reasoning happens when you let your emotions dictate your thoughts, rather than allowing logic and evidence to lead the way. For example, when you're angry, you might jump to conclusions about someone's intentions, or when you're anxious, you might overestimate the risks involved in a decision. The danger of emotional reasoning is that it clouds our judgment. When we're emotionally charged, we tend to make impulsive decisions without fully considering the consequences. The key to overcoming this pitfall is learning to separate emotion from logic. When faced with a decision, take a step back and give yourself time to calm down. Ask yourself, is this decision being influenced by my emotions, or is it based on facts and reason? By doing so, you can ensure that your emotions don't hijack your thinking and lead you to poor choices. 4. Anchoring bias. Anchoring bias occurs when we rely too heavily on the first piece of information we receive, using it as a reference point for all subsequent decisions. For example, if someone tells you that a product is worth $500 and you later see it on sale for $300, you may perceive it as a great deal, even though the actual value of the product might be much lower. The initial price, or anchor, skews your perception, making the sale price seem more reasonable than it actually is. This bias can affect all types of decisions, from financial choices to personal relationships. To avoid anchoring bias, always question the initial information you're given. Compare it with other sources and ask yourself if there might be a better, more objective way to evaluate the situation. By recognizing anchoring bias, you can make decisions based on a broader range of information rather than relying on a single reference point. The bandwagon effect. The bandwagon effect occurs when we adopt beliefs or behaviors simply because others are doing the same. This is especially prevalent in social settings where we may follow the crowd to avoid standing out or feeling left behind. Whether it's following the latest trend, supporting a popular opinion, or joining a movement, the bandwagon effect can make us feel like we're part of something bigger, even if it's not the right thing to do. The problem with the bandwagon effect is that it discourages independent thinking. When we follow the crowd without questioning it, we're not thinking critically about our own values or beliefs. To avoid falling into this trap, it's essential to ask yourself, why am I going along with this? Do I genuinely believe in this, or am I just following others? By questioning your motives and making decisions based on your own values, you can avoid the bandwagon effect and think more critically. 6. Sunk cost fallacy. The sunk cost fallacy occurs when we continue to invest time, money, or effort into something simply because we've already invested so much, even if it no longer serves our interests. For example, you might continue watching a movie that you're not enjoying simply because you've already spent an hour on it, or you might stick with a failing project because you've already invested a lot of resources into it. The sunk cost fallacy can be particularly harmful because it prevents us from cutting our losses and moving on. It makes us feel like we've already invested too much to give up, even though continuing may only lead to more losses. To avoid falling into this trap, remind yourself that past investments are gone and should not influence future decisions. Focus on what's best for you moving forward, rather than trying to justify past choices. 7. The availability heuristic. The availability heuristic is a mental shortcut that makes us judge the likelihood of an event based on how easily examples come to mind. For instance, if you frequently hear about plane crashes in the news, you may overestimate the risk of flying, even though air travel is statistically one of the safest modes of transportation. The availability heuristic is influenced by vivid or memorable experiences, but it can often lead us to make irrational judgments. To overcome the availability heuristic, it's essential to challenge your initial impressions. Ask yourself, is this fear based on reality, or is it driven by recent media coverage or personal experiences? When making important decisions, take the time to gather accurate data and look beyond what is immediately available to you. By doing so, you can avoid making decisions based on flawed reasoning. 8. The false consensus effect. The false consensus effect occurs when we overestimate how much other people share our beliefs, opinions, and behaviors. This can lead us to assume that everyone agrees with us, which can create an echo chamber where our views are reinforced and we fail to recognize differing perspectives. For example, if most of your friends share the same political views as you, you may assume that everyone holds the same opinions, even though that's not the case. The false consensus effect can limit our thinking by preventing us from considering diverse viewpoints. To counteract this bias, actively seek out opinions that differ from your own. Engage in conversations with people who have different beliefs and listen to their perspectives. By exposing yourself to different viewpoints, you'll develop a more nuanced and well-rounded understanding of the world. Conclusion. The common pitfalls in thinking are traps that can easily lead us astray if we're not careful. Whether it's confirmation bias, overconfidence, emotional reasoning, or any of the other biases we've discussed, these cognitive shortcuts can undermine our ability to think critically and make well-informed decisions. But by being aware of these pitfalls, we can begin to counteract them and improve our decision-making skills. Critical thinking isn't just about avoiding mistakes. It's about developing the ability to think clearly, evaluate information carefully, and make choices that are based on reason, not bias. By recognizing these traps and taking steps to avoid them, you'll be well on your way to becoming a sharper, more insightful thinker. Section 3. How to sharpen your critical thinking. Welcome to Section 3. How to sharpen your critical thinking. In the previous sections, we've explored what critical thinking is and why it's essential. Now let's dive into how you can sharpen your critical thinking skills and become a more effective thinker in your everyday life. Critical thinking is a skill that anyone can develop, but like any other skill, it requires practice. You will not automatically think critically just because you want to, but with consistent effort, you can train your brain to become sharper and more focused. So how do you go about sharpening your critical thinking? Let's explore some practical techniques that will transform the way you think. The first step is to develop the habit of questioning everything. Critical thinking begins with asking questions, so make it a habit to challenge the information you come across. Ask yourself, what is the evidence behind this claim? Who is presenting this information and what might their motives be? Are there any counter-arguments that I should consider? These simple questions push you to think beyond the surface level and help you evaluate whether the information is reliable and valid. The second technique is to avoid jumping to conclusions. One of the most common pitfalls in thinking critically is rushing to form judgments before fully understanding the situation. Often we let our emotions and assumptions cloud our reasoning, and in doing so we miss important details. To sharpen your critical thinking, take a step back before forming an opinion. Give yourself time to reflect and process all available information. Ask yourself, what else do I need to know before making a judgment? By allowing yourself time to think, you can avoid the trap of jumping to conclusions too quickly. Another essential step is to consider multiple perspectives. This is crucial because human thinking is inherently limited by personal experiences and biases. We all view the world through our own lens, which can sometimes lead to a narrow or skewed understanding. By considering multiple perspectives, you can broaden your understanding and challenge your own biases. When presented with an idea, ask yourself, what would someone with a different background or set of beliefs think about this? What other viewpoints could be valid here? This helps you think more deeply and avoid tunnel vision, making your thinking more comprehensive and well-rounded. In addition to broadening your perspective, it's vital to learn how to spot and avoid logical fallacies. Logical fallacies are errors in reasoning that undermine the validity of an argument. They can take many forms, from appeals to emotion to false dilemmas, and they are often used to manipulate or mislead others. As a critical thinker, you need to become skilled at spotting these fallacies and recognizing when an argument isn't based on sound reasoning. Some common fallacies include the ad hominem attack, where a person attacks the character of someone making an argument instead of addressing the argument itself, or the straw man fallacy, where someone misrepresents another person's argument to make it easier to attack. To spot these fallacies, it's important to focus on the structure of the argument. Does the conclusion logically follow from the premises? Are the claims being made supported by evidence, or are they based on assumptions? Learning to identify fallacies strengthens your ability to think logically and make well-informed decisions. Now let's talk about developing the ability to think in systems. This is a more advanced aspect of critical thinking, but it's incredibly powerful once you master it. Thinking in systems means seeing the interconnectedness of things and recognizing how different factors influence one another. It's about understanding that actions have consequences and one decision can set off a chain of events. To develop this kind of thinking, consider how your actions or decisions affect not just the immediate situation, but also the broader context. For example, if you're considering a business decision, think about how it will impact your customers, employees, competitors, and the industry as a whole. If you're making a personal decision, consider how it will affect your relationships, your career, and your long-term happiness. By thinking in systems, you can make more informed decisions that take into account the bigger picture, reducing the likelihood of unintended consequences. A similar technique is the practice of thinking critically about your own thinking. This is sometimes referred to as metacognition, thinking about thinking. Metacognition involves becoming aware of your own mental processes, recognizing when you're being influenced by biases, and understanding the limitations of your knowledge. It's about stepping outside of your own thought patterns and reflecting on whether you are thinking clearly or simply relying on preconceived notions. To practice metacognition, regularly check in with yourself and ask, What assumptions am I making? Why do I believe this? Am I being influenced by emotions, personal biases, or past experiences? By becoming aware of these influences, you can adjust your thinking and make more reasoned and objective decisions. Another powerful technique for sharpening your critical thinking is to engage in discussions with others. Conversations with people who have different viewpoints can be incredibly valuable for broadening your understanding and challenging your assumptions. When engaging in a discussion, practice active listening. Don't just wait for your turn to speak. Listen carefully to what the other person is saying, ask clarifying questions, and try to understand their perspective. Even if you disagree with them, their viewpoint can provide insights that help you see the issue from a different angle. When discussing ideas with others, be open to changing your mind. If presented with compelling evidence or a better argument, don't be afraid to adjust your thinking. The ability to change your mind based on new information is a sign of intellectual humility, which is crucial for personal growth and critical thinking. The more you engage with others and remain open to learning, the sharper your critical thinking skills will become. The final technique I'll share with you is to read widely and continuously. Critical thinkers are lifelong learners who seek out new information and ideas from diverse sources. Read books, articles, and research papers from various fields, even those that are outside of your comfort zone. Exposure to a variety of ideas and viewpoints will deepen your understanding and help you develop the ability to think critically about any subject. Make it a habit to challenge yourself intellectually by engaging with complex material. Don't shy away from difficult topics just because they're challenging. Instead, embrace the opportunity to expand your mind and sharpen your thinking. Over time, you'll develop a mental toolkit of strategies and techniques that will help you approach any problem or decision with clarity and confidence. So, there you have it, some of the best ways to sharpen your critical thinking. From questioning assumptions to considering multiple perspectives, these techniques will help you develop the skills needed to think more deeply, make better decisions, and avoid the traps of faulty reasoning. Remember, critical thinking is not a one-time event. It's a continuous process of growth and improvement. The more you practice, the stronger your thinking will become. By actively applying these strategies in your life, you'll not only improve your own thinking, but you'll also inspire those around you to do the same. As you develop sharper critical thinking skills, you'll become more effective in solving problems, making decisions, and navigating the complexities of life. The world needs more critical thinkers, and you now have the tools to be one of them. So challenge yourself to think better, question more, and embrace the process of becoming a stronger, more insightful thinker. Keep pushing your limits, stay curious, and continue to develop your critical thinking skills. You're on your way to becoming a true leader in your own life and in the world around you. Section 4, The Dangers of Passive Thinking. Welcome to Section 4, The Dangers of Passive Thinking. In the previous sections, we've discussed how to sharpen your critical thinking, the common pitfalls in thinking, and the importance of recognizing and challenging those traps. Now let's talk about a danger that is often overlooked: passive thinking. At first glance, passive thinking may seem harmless. After all, not everyone is a philosopher or deep thinker, right? But passive thinking is one of the biggest threats to your mental clarity, personal growth, and decision-making. It can lead you to accept things at face value, follow the crowd, and fail to question the information you encounter every day. This passive approach to thinking can make you an easy target for manipulation and reduce your ability to think independently. Let's explore what passive thinking is, why it's so dangerous, and how you can break free from it to lead a more intentional, empowered life. What is passive thinking? Passive thinking is essentially a mode of thought where you accept things as they are without critically evaluating them. It's the opposite of active, intentional thinking. Instead of questioning the information you receive or looking for multiple perspectives, you simply go along with whatever seems easiest or most familiar. You might read a headline, nod along to a conversation, or even adopt opinions because they align with what you've been told or because they are popular. This kind of thinking is often a result of mental laziness or habit. It's much easier to accept things at face value than to challenge them, especially when you are bombarded with a constant flow of information. In today's world, where information is readily available and constantly changing, passive thinking can be an automatic response. But here's the truth. Passive thinking is not only inefficient, it's dangerous. It keeps you in a state of ignorance and makes you vulnerable to manipulation. When you passively consume information, you allow your environment, media, and others to shape your beliefs and opinions without even realizing it. This can lead to poor decision-making, skewed perceptions, and missed opportunities for growth. Passive thinkers rarely challenge the status quo, which means they are often stuck in repetitive cycles of belief without understanding why they believe what they do. Why is passive thinking dangerous? The danger of passive thinking lies in its ability to limit your perspective. When you fail to actively engage with the world around you, you allow others to dictate how you see reality. This happens in various ways, such as through the media, peer pressure, or societal expectations. For example, consider how social media algorithms work. They show you content that aligns with your past interactions, reinforcing the ideas and beliefs you already hold. Over time, this can lead to a narrow view of the world, as you only see information that echoes your existing opinions. This is known as the filter bubble. When you are trapped in a filter bubble, you are not exposed to different perspectives, new ideas, or alternative viewpoints. Your thinking becomes rigid and closed off, and you may begin to dismiss anything that challenges your beliefs. This is a dangerous place to be, as it stifles personal growth and prevents you from developing a deeper understanding of the world. Without critical thinking, you miss out on opportunities to expand your knowledge and refine your thinking. Moreover, passive thinking leaves you susceptible to manipulation. Whether it's through advertisements, political propaganda, or biased news sources, your thoughts are constantly being influenced by external forces. When you passively absorb information, you do not question the motives behind it. Who benefits from you believing what they are telling you? What are they trying to sell, and why? These questions are essential to uncovering the hidden agendas behind the information you consume. But passive thinkers rarely ask these questions. Passive thinking also has a detrimental effect on decision-making. When you make decisions without critically evaluating your options, you are more likely to make poor choices based on incomplete or biased information. Think about the last time you made a decision in a hurry or went along with the crowd. Were you fully informed, or did you simply follow the path of least resistance? Passive thinkers often make decisions based on convenience or emotional reactions rather than reasoned analysis. It can lead to regret, poor outcomes, and missed opportunities. The consequences of passive thinking. The consequences of passive thinking extend beyond just poor decision-making. Over time, it erodes your ability to think independently, which can have serious implications for your life. Without critical thinking, you become less self-aware. You may start to adopt beliefs that are not truly your own, and you may begin to see the world through the lens of others' opinions rather than your own experiences and insights. Moreover, passive thinking limits your creativity and problem-solving skills. When you are not actively engaging with the world and questioning what you encounter, your mind becomes stagnant. You stop looking for new solutions, and you become comfortable with the way things are, even if that means settling for mediocrity. The world is constantly changing, and in order to thrive, you must be able to adapt, innovate, and think critically about how to respond to new challenges. Another major consequence of passive thinking is that it leaves you vulnerable to being controlled. As we've mentioned before, media and other external forces are always working to shape your thoughts and behaviors. The more passive you are in your thinking, the easier it is for these forces to influence you. Whether it's through advertising that convinces you to buy things you don't need, or political rhetoric that sways your opinions, passive thinkers are more likely to be manipulated without even realizing it. This manipulation can lead to poor financial decisions, misguided beliefs, and even social unrest. Passive thinking also hampers personal development. If you don't actively seek out new knowledge, challenge your beliefs, and expose yourself to different perspectives, you remain stuck in a cycle of self-limiting thinking. Growth comes from engaging with the world in an active, intentional way. By passively going along with the crowd, you forfeit your ability to learn, grow, and become a better version of yourself. Breaking free from passive thinking. Now that we've identified the dangers of passive thinking, let's discuss how you can break free from this cycle and start thinking more critically and independently. The first step is to become aware of when you're falling into passive thinking patterns. start paying attention to how you react to information. Are you simply accepting it, or are you questioning it? One powerful way to overcome passive thinking is to engage in regular reflection. Take time each day to reflect on the information you've encountered, the decisions you've made, and the opinions you've formed. Ask yourself, why do I believe this? Where did this information come from? Is this the full story, or am I missing something? This kind of introspection will help you identify whether your thoughts are truly your own, or whether they've been influenced by outside forces. Another way to break free from passive thinking is to expose yourself to diverse viewpoints. This could mean reading articles that challenge your beliefs, engaging in conversations with people who hold different opinions, or seeking out new perspectives on the topics that matter most to you. The more you challenge your own assumptions, the more you'll begin to develop a broader, more informed view of the world. This will help you make better decisions and strengthen your critical thinking skills. Finally, practice active decision-making. Instead of going along with the flow, take the time to evaluate your options and think about the potential outcomes. Consider all perspectives and ask yourself the difficult questions. What's the best course of action? What are the potential risks and benefits? Am I making this decision because it's the easiest option or because it's the best one? By making these small adjustments, you can begin to transform your thinking and break free from the limitations of passive thought. Conclusion. Passive thinking is a dangerous habit that can prevent you from living an intentional, empowered life. It keeps you stuck in cycles of uncritical acceptance, limiting your potential and making you vulnerable to manipulation. By becoming aware of the dangers of passive thinking, questioning your assumptions, and engaging in active, intentional thought, you can break free from this trap and develop the critical thinking skills necessary to navigate the complexities of the world. Critical thinking is about challenging the status quo, questioning the information you receive, and thinking for yourself. When you do this, you empower yourself to make better decisions, grow as a person, and ultimately lead a more fulfilling life. Section 5. Critical Thinking in Action. Welcome to Section 5. Critical Thinking in Action. Now that we've explored the importance of critical thinking, identified the common pitfalls, and learned how to sharpen your mind, let's move on to the most exciting part: putting critical thinking into practice. This is where the rubber meets the road, where everything we've discussed so far becomes more than just theory. Critical thinking is not just an abstract concept that you learn about in a classroom. It's a tool that you can use in your daily life to make better decisions, solve problems more effectively, and navigate the complexities of the world with confidence. In this section, we will discuss how to apply the principles of critical thinking in real-world situations. Understanding the power of active engagement. The first step to putting critical thinking into action is understanding the difference between passive and active thinking. Passive thinking is when you simply accept information as it comes to you without questioning it or considering alternative perspectives. Active thinking, on the other hand, is when you engage with information, ask questions, and explore the deeper implications of what you are being told. For example, think about the last time you read a news article or saw a post on social media. Did you immediately accept what was being said, or did you pause and ask yourself, who wrote this? What is their agenda? Is there another side to this story? This is the first step in critical thinking, actively engaging with the world around you instead of passively absorbing information. When you actively engage with information, you start to notice patterns, inconsistencies, and assumptions that you might have missed before. You begin to see beyond the surface, uncovering the layers of complexity that lie underneath. This is where true critical thinking starts to shine. By questioning the information you encounter, you become less likely to be manipulated and more capable of making informed decisions. Using the Socratic method. One of the most powerful tools for applying critical thinking is the Socratic method. This ancient technique is named after the philosopher Socrates, who believed that the best way to gain knowledge and understanding was to ask a series of probing questions. The Socratic method encourages you to question everything, to dig deeper into ideas, and to examine your assumptions. For example, let's say you're having a conversation with someone about a political issue. Instead of simply agreeing with their opinion or dismissing it outright, you could ask questions like, what evidence supports this viewpoint? What would happen if we looked at this issue from a different perspective? Are there any potential consequences that we're overlooking? By asking these questions, you force yourself and the other person to think more deeply about the issue, moving beyond surface-level assumptions and biases. The Socratic method is particularly useful in discussions and debates. It helps you identify logical fallacies, challenge weak arguments, and refine your own thinking. By asking thoughtful questions, you can encourage others to think critically as well, creating a more engaging and productive conversation. Identifying bias and assumptions. Another key aspect of applying critical thinking is the ability to recognize bias and assumptions, both your own and others. Everyone has biases, whether they are conscious or unconscious, and these biases can cloud judgment and affect decision-making. The key is to recognize when you are being influenced by biases and to challenge those biases in order to see things more clearly. For example, imagine you are presented with a piece of information that confirms your existing beliefs. It's easy to accept it at face value, especially if it aligns with what you already think. But a critical thinker will pause and ask, am I accepting this because it's true, or because it supports what I already believe? This is known as confirmation bias, and it's a common pitfall that can lead to flawed thinking. To combat bias, make it a habit to question everything, even information that supports your own views. Seek out opposing viewpoints, read articles that challenge your beliefs, and engage in conversations with people who think differently. This will help you break free from the echo chambers that often reinforce our biases and limit our understanding. Applying critical thinking to everyday situations. Critical thinking is not just something you do when you're studying or debating complex topics. It's a skill that you can apply in every area of your life, from making decisions at work to navigating personal relationships. Let's take a look at how you can use critical thinking in some common real-life situations. Making important decisions. When faced with an important decision, whether it's buying a house, changing careers, or choosing a healthcare plan, critical thinking helps you weigh the pros and cons, consider the long-term consequences, and evaluate the information from multiple sources. Instead of rushing to make a decision based on emotions or pressure, you take the time to think through your options, ask the right questions, and make an informed choice. Solving problems. Whether you're troubleshooting a technical issue or resolving a conflict with a colleague, critical thinking helps you approach problems systematically. You start by identifying the root cause of the problem, considering all possible solutions, and evaluating the potential risks and benefits of each option. By thinking critically, you're able to find the most effective and efficient solution. Evaluating media and information. In today's world, we are constantly bombarded with information from all sides: news outlets, social media, advertisements, and more. Critical thinking helps you evaluate the credibility of the sources, identify bias, and separate fact from opinion. Instead of accepting everything you hear or see, you learn to ask questions, verify facts, and think critically about the information being presented. Improving communication. Critical thinking also plays a crucial role in communication. Whether you're giving a presentation, having a conversation, or writing an email, critical thinking helps you craft your message clearly and persuasively. By considering the perspective of your audience, presenting well-reasoned arguments, and anticipating counter-arguments, you can communicate more effectively and increase the chances of your message being understood and accepted. Self-reflection and growth. Critical thinking is not just about engaging with the world around you, it's also about looking inward. By reflecting on your own thoughts, behaviors, and beliefs, you can gain valuable insights into your motivations and biases. Self-reflection allows you to challenge your assumptions, grow as a person, and become more self-aware. This is an essential part of personal development, as it helps you continuously improve and refine your thinking. The role of critical thinking in leadership. Finally, let's discuss the role of critical thinking in leadership. Whether you're leading a team, managing a project, or running your own business, critical thinking is an essential skill for making sound decisions and guiding others towards success. Leaders who think critically are able to make informed, strategic decisions that benefit their teams and organizations. They are able to anticipate challenges, weigh different options, and develop innovative solutions. Furthermore, critical thinking allows leaders to stay calm under pressure, think on their feet, and adapt to changing circumstances. In addition, critical thinkers are more likely to be open-minded and receptive to feedback. Instead of being defensive or dismissive, they listen to others' opinions, consider different perspectives, and make adjustments as needed. This makes them more effective leaders as they foster a culture of collaboration, problem-solving, and continuous improvement. Conclusion. Critical thinking in action is about applying the skills and techniques you've learned to real-world situations. It's about questioning assumptions, challenging your own beliefs, and engaging with the world in an active, intentional way. By using critical thinking, you can make better decisions, solve problems more effectively, and navigate life with greater clarity and confidence. The more you practice critical thinking, the sharper and more capable your mind becomes. So, start today. Embrace the power of critical thinking and watch how it transforms your life. Thank you for tuning in to this episode on improving your critical thinking skills. We've covered a lot of ground today, from understanding the basics of critical thinking to recognizing common pitfalls, and even applying these skills in real-life situations. Remember, critical thinking is not just a tool, it's a way of life. It empowers you to challenge assumptions, make informed decisions, and navigate the complexities of our world with confidence. The key takeaway is simple. Never stop questioning, never stop thinking deeply. As you move forward, remember that critical thinking is a habit that can be cultivated and strengthened every day. It's about taking control of your mind, questioning the world around you, and choosing to think for yourself. So the next time you face a decision or encounter information that doesn't sit right with you, pause, reflect, and engage your critical thinking. The power is in your hands. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned for more episodes where we continue to explore how you can sharpen your mind and lead with clarity.